Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hall Podcast. My name is Will Schwarz. I'll be your host today. I have a very special guest from the BC Building Trades Executive Director, Brynn Bourke. Welcome to the Hall. Hi, Brynn.
Hi, Will.
How are you? Thank you for joining us today.
I'm doing great. It's wonderful to be back here. I love coming to the studio.
It's very nice to have you. I know it was very well received the last time you were on. Some big moves since then as well.
Yeah, I can't believe that it was like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks ago. We were sitting here. The hall had the exclusive on our launch for the Get Flush campaign. And then we went into convention, and the premier announced that the government was going to bring in a legal requirement for flush toilets on construction sites of 25 workers or more. It's a big win.
Big win. So in the last 2.5, 3 weeks, it's been a lot has happened leading up to that. So not just the campaign going on, you had the BC Building Trades Convention in Victoria. So tell us a little bit about that and what led up to that announcement.
Yeah, it's been a bit surreal because I think for folks on the outside of this campaign, it really seemed like, oh, the building trades just came out and asked for flush toilets, and immediately the government was like, okay, we'll give you flush toilets, and that is not the case.
No, it's been something that's
it's been a years in the
yeah.
making, and it really, we talked a lot at the last time I was on the podcast about the genesis of this coming out of the pandemic and workers demanding more, and then putting together the first report in 2021. And then, really not seeing a lot of movement from industry,
Right.
really not seeing sites getting, not only not adopting flush toilets, but not even maintaining basic maintenance and
Right.
cleaning over the last, 2.5 years, 3 years. So when we put together this second campaign, it was really prescriptive. Instead of sort of a the first campaign really put daylight on this issue, pulled the regulatory requirements and tried to put them out to industry about their obligations. This second campaign was like, okay, enough of that. Here's what we're talking about.
Right.
We want flush toilets. We want them on sites of 25 workers or more. When we say flushed, we're going to give you a definition of plumbed from the BC Plumbing Code.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about like tanks and venting. We're going to be explicit about heating and light and running water. And we're going to want an enforcement policy along with it. And I think that clarity, like, it just cut through all the noise.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
somehow it landed so well. Like, we started our campaign here at on the Hall podcast, and then we went, and there was so much interest from media, and we did CBC and Global and all the print media, and the call-in shows started picking it up.
Yeah.
And I was on some of them, but also they just like had that as their topic, and workers were calling in and speaking to it. And even at one point, Rock 101 was covering it, and we were like, oh my goodness. And I went to get a haircut, and one of the women sitting beside me was like, I know you were on Global News, you want those flush toilets. And the other woman in the other chair was like, I heard about that, those workers should get those flush toilets. Like, it felt like we'd crossed some like Rubicon.
Well, I know I was driving into work listening to CKNW in the morning, and they had a soundbite from you on there. I'm like, holy shit, I know Brynn. I was there. I was there for that. No way. So it's amazing how quickly the media picked it up, and how quickly not just the media picked it up, but I mean the provincial government actually listening and running with that. I mean, it I think really helps, like you said, being able to lay it out as cleanly as you did about what the expectation is, the definitions behind it, and what we need to see this go into place. So, I mean, fantastic that you can put a campaign together like that. And like we said, it's not something that happened in 2.5 weeks. It's something that's been in the works for really years. But this second level of the campaign being able to hit home the way it did, it's unreal. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I really have to thank, not just our incredible team
Mm.
at the BC Building Trades and our director of campaigns and communications, Jeremy Allingham, who
Mm.
put it, all out, like laid it all on the field on this one to land this campaign. But also the workers, like they came on the radio with me. They did, media interviews with me to bring that very personal perspective. Like, what does it mean? Tell us your toilet horror story, and
Yeah.
and to make it real for people. And once they had that context,
Mm.
they, the general public was there. Like they were there and they supported us, and we landed that commitment. I would say it wasn't just that the premier stood up at our podium at convention and said, uh, we're going to have a legal requirement for flush toilets. He also said for 25. And that was so key,
Yeah.
because now we have a box that as this goes through a process, and there's various ways they can have that legal requirement. Cabinet
Mm.
can do it. They can do it through legislation, through law. They can do it through a regulatory change at WorkSafe. Whatever path they choose, I think the road is bumpy
Right.
and it's going to have problems, devil in the details, all those things. But we have a box.
Mm.
The floor is 25, and we're gonna carry that, through this process to make sure that at the end, this is a policy that will affect most construction sites, and that, that this is not a one-off for a few projects in, Metro
Yeah.
Vancouver, that for the majority of workers, they're going to see this change.
Now, I know within the building trades, this is obviously something that's very close to us. Can you give any detail on some of the other meetings you had with some people outside the building trades leading up to this during your campaign?
Yeah, we met with we've met with the Minister Harry Baines many times, and I know he was on the podcast
Yeah.
talking about this. We also had a really, I think, a turning point meeting with industry, where we had all of the heads of the construction industry associations come into a room and ask questions about what exactly is the building trades trying to do now.
Right.
And we really put it out there. And I feel that meeting was a turning point, because I think you can theoretically maybe make fun of what we're asking for as if it's ridiculous, as if, every road crew that might be filling in a pothole is going to now need to,
Yeah.
plumb a golden toilet tied into a sewer line. Like, I mean, that was sort of like the dismissiveness
Yeah.
that we were getting from some corners. But when you were like very clear, no, this is what we mean. This is when we mean it. This is how you would do it. This is why it's important. And let's talk about dignity and respect. And let's talk about the human beings that are building our infrastructure. And for the most part, we saw industry leaders come on board. And it really helped, I think, show government we can do this.
Right.
It is possible.
That's fantastic. Great news. So congratulations again on the win. What is next? What else is on the radar that the BC Building Trades is setting their sights on?
Well, yeah. So partly we've got the big high level announcement. Now we got to make sure that those details come through.
Right. So the follow-up to go with the announcement, making sure that the implementation rolls out smoothly and adequately.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's still work ahead of us. The other announcement that didn't get as much press but is meaningful was a commitment from the premier on improving the requirement for PPE and enforcement for PPE. And this is something that we've also been campaigning for, particularly for women, that PPE is not made for their bodies. And in addition to it being ill-fitting, in some situations, it's actually harmful and presents a danger to performing their duties on the job. And one of the things that we asked for was that tradeswomen need to be part of that conversation. Like there's a saying, nothing about us without us. And that in this process, as WorkSafe tries to not just educate contractors on their obligations under the Workers' Compensation Act, but also we're going to need to work with manufacturers to make it. We're going to need to work with suppliers to distribute it. And we also have there's a large variance in quality. And so a lot of tradeswomen have talked to me about PPE that they've had that is marketed to women, and the quality is garbage.
Right.
So it's really expensive, and it's work pants that wear out in, a month and tear easily, and, harnesses that, really won't even bear weight, that kind of thing. And so what we need is to create a forum for tradeswomen to bring their experience and their expertise to inform the regulator. And I'm hoping that we can co-develop a guide on PPE that sort of deals with all those pieces, right? Like, what is required? What does good PPE look like? Where can you find it?
Right.
So that it's a meaningful tool. Like, we take this legislative requirement and we land it on the work site in a real way that makes sure that women are safe and that they have appropriate personal protective equipment.
Absolutely. And I think with the ongoing advocacy to get more women in the trades, when we get those women in the trades, we need to adequately protect them. I mean, the same PPE that would be required or used by a man out on the job, it's no different that a woman is going to need to perform that work, and they should be as safe as any man doing that job with the PPE that's provided. So it absolutely makes sense.
Well, it's good work that we've got ahead of us, and I think, there's lots of campaigns. We're working on trying to crack down on the underground economy. We've really tried to take on the issue of substance use and mental health in the construction industry, and to show the government how the building trades is leading the way through the construction industry rehab plan, and what we need in terms of the building an actual facility for construction workers, designed by and in consultation with construction workers to specifically meet the needs of our unique industry. And that was a big campaign that we took during convention as well. And we had many passionate building trades members who spoke to politicians about this is, we know that there's a poison drug crisis and that construction workers have been disproportionately affected. We also have a serious problem with mental health and higher rates of suicide, and that we need sort of a whole industry approach. And we know where we want to go with this. We know what we need, and we need government's help. So.
Yeah, that's all of those things. I mean, that really, you feel that when you start talking about it. I know Local 170, unfortunately, and many of the other building trades affiliates, we've all experienced that, whether it's suicide or overdose. And we're small communities within our own locals, and it rocks all of us when you hear that, an apprentice or a journey person member that loses their life for something that really is preventable. And by hearing the proposals that the building trades is putting forward on behalf of the membership, it inspires some hope in all the chaos that's going on.
Yeah. This one, I think it's been really difficult because there's so many pieces to the problem. And so trying to, be clear about how do we actually protect our members and save their lives. And I'm grateful that we have the construction industry rehab plan, because for me, we have access to this anchor of phenomenally talented clinicians who understand our industry and are really working hard. And what they don't have is enough resources, enough people, enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
And we can, for the most part, we can give them that. We can lobby for that. And so that's what we're doing. And it will save lives if we can give them the funding they need. We're asking for a 40-bed detox and recovery facility for CERP. That industry is also, we're in there. We're funding CERP, using union dollars to do it. So we're right there as a partner. So that's something that we're really pushing hard for.
Well, we had a tragedy. We lost our son September. He was 19 years old. We had him in treatment and counseling, and with what's going on out there right now, it's just you make the wrong decision, and he made a bad decision, and unfortunately, it cost him his life. A lot of people don't want to admit they have an addiction problem.
This is what we've done really well for a long, long time was, oh, that person has a mental health issue, addiction issue, whatever it was. And we would go, oh, lay them off or keep them off the crew or hide them or ignore them or get rid of them or somehow cover it up. Now it was a point where we could say, hey, why don't we just acknowledge that that's there?
Individuals don't want everybody knowing about their business, right? And in the construction world, it's a pretty tight-knit family out there. Like, I'm a safe zone, like totally confidential. You don't got to worry about anything, right? Like, you can open up to me, and if you got some issues or some problems, or it's mental health or it's substance addiction or whatever it is, once they see that assurance, then they open up to you about their problems.
So sad. It should definitely be promoted more to everyone that these programs are available if you do need them, and there shouldn't be any shame involved with that.
I don't want you to think for 1 minute that the employers in the industry don't care, because I think they do. I know they do. I've seen them care. I've seen them do the work without me even being involved, and that's meaningful, and I know that that's changing.
Our union is 100% supportive and been there. I've seen it more as a trustee now in the last 3 years that I'm relaying that information to our membership, because they don't necessarily know what's available. If you don't look, sometimes you don't necessarily know it. So kind of my role and the people that are involved in the union is to get that information to our members.
Let them know about the construction industry rehab plan, just letting the membership know that there's options out there for them. All they have to do is ask and make a phone call and open up that door. And a lot of the times when that happens, it's life-changing for people, right?
I have a close family member of mine actually that went through CERP, which is the Construction Industry Rehab Plan. They went through rehabilitation, and they're actually over 1 year clean now, which is amazing. The services that they offer there are absolutely phenomenal. He probably wouldn't still be here if it wasn't for them.
People that are facing challenges and even crises have avenues, they have options, and it's there for us, and a lot of times just free of charge.
So the construction industry rehab plan, I can think back to so many people, and myself included, and people around me who have taken advantage of that process. It's not easy. It's not a clean, straight road, but if you want to be here, come with us.
It's easier, I think, than people think. The hardest part is just making the call. If you can make that call, they're there every single step of the way to guide you and to hold your hand through it.
Ask for help. Reach out. It may be hard to do, but once you take that initial step and you reach out, then the weight will just flow off your shoulders, and then people will be there to embrace you and to help you the best way possible.
So tough conversation to have, and I know during the break there we've been having our own internal conversation in the studio here. The point of it is, I think all of this has affected everybody in a certain level, and it's tough to move on from that conversation. I'm going to do my best here as the host, but we're not moving on lightly. Carrying on to the next topic, though, let's talk trades training going forward. So I know, obviously, that's something that's very close to what I do as the executive director of apprenticeship and training for Local 170, UA Piping Industry College. Trades training and funding that go with it through Skilled Trades BC and the various ministries attached. What are you thinking? What are you hoping, Brynn, for the next initiative for the BC Building Trades carrying on?
Yeah. Well, in this one, I kind of want to maybe go back in our little time machine.
Yeah. Paint the picture.
2001.
Paint the picture.
Paint the picture.
Yeah.
So 2001, BC Liberal government gets elected. They had a cross-ministry requirement to cut budgets by about 20%. So Advanced Ed at the time or maybe a trades training was inside labor. Anyway, whatever it was.
Yeah.
The Industry Training Apprenticeship Commission, 20% cut.
Mm.
The commission itself gets dismantled. Staffing goes from 120 staff to 10 in a call center in Richmond. Compulsory trades eliminated. All apprenticeship advisors laid off. It was like a complete gutting of the industry, and it took 2 more years to build back the ITA, Industry Training Authority.
And that was that transition from ITAC to ITA, correct?
That's right. And at that time, funding for the Industry Training Apprenticeship Commission, then ITA, it ended up being like $90 million, right? And after it all shook out. And then of that 90 million, about 74 million was the transfer, right? So you've got some millions that are held back for like keeping the lights on, paying the mortgage, having some skeletal staff apparently. And then there was about 74 million that went to all trades training providers for trades training seats. And when I say all trades training providers, I mean BCIT, Camosun, Kwantlen, and UAPIC, Sheet Metal Workers Training Center Society, Trial Trades Training Association, Finishing Trades Institute, all the union schools, about 74 million. It has not increased. So in 20 years, that core amount of funding has not increased. The public trades trainers have access to other operating grants and other venues to sort of round that out and smooth some of those, budgets. We do not, right? So every year, union training schools put more union money into offsetting the cost of trades training in order to make sure that that we can keep our apprentices going and keep supplying qualified, skilled workers to our industry. It is a crisis.
Yeah.
And we just keep talking about it. It's a huge issue. I mean, $94 million or $74 million is nothing. It's nothing in a government budget.
No, and the 74 million, it sounds like a lot. Like to our viewers, $74 million is a lot of money. But when 74 million is what's earmarked for all of trades training in the province for an annual budget, and it hasn't increased in 20 years. Everyone talks about cost of living and wages going up and materials and all of that. And again, from my perspective running the college here, we just had a new ICI. Great that everyone got a raise. Really happy with that. It was ratified by our members. I'm looking at my bottom line, seeing all of these cost increases. We talk about things going up from COVID, metal costs, materials, all of those things. Everything is going up. And in 20 years, there has not been an increase in that budget. And we're still expected to perform the same high standard of training for our membership, as well as, as we know, we're open to non-union as well. So we're open to that. But we're expected and we want to maintain that level. So something has to give at some point. So for me, I know when I look at how the operation works within UA Piping Industry College and Local 170, our funding model is we have seats that are provided by Skilled Trades BC, and that's that dollar figure that hasn't changed in 20 years. The other source of our funding is our member contributions that come in the form of the PIAB Training Fund. And that's a dollar figure, I think 81 cents right now per hour work that gets paid into that training fund. And that number hasn't changed in about 15 years within Local 170. And I completely understand that, because when a new agreement is ratified and they're deciding how many pennies are going to their pension or health and welfare, or how they're spreading that around, with the cost of living increases, we're literally asking our own membership if they want to pick between a raise or help support the apprenticeship training that's been going on for all these years. And the provincial government is putting our membership and all of us in an awkward position now, where to be able to sustain that training going on, they're putting it back on our membership to need to make that decision, because the funding isn't coming from the provincial side. So I'm getting worked up about this here. BC Building Trades, I know we've got a great relationship. You've got a great relationship with Skilled Trades BC. Shelley Gray, the CEO there, fantastic lady, really, really good work. What is the scope of this new campaign, if we want to call it a campaign? What is your plan to be able to talk to the people that need to be talked to actually try to implement some change in this?
Well, and this is, this is something that we had been talking about for years. I think the new tactic is to do really clear and focused advocacy. So 2 years in a row, we used our submission during the provincial government budget process. They have the standing committee on finance. You can go and present to the committee. We have spoken on this and only this issue. So all the things we could ask for money for, we've just said we need an immediate 50% increase to trades training funding to $35 million and then tie it to inflation. The other piece is to take as many politicians as we can possibly find and bring them through our trades training schools to show them, like, come and see how sophisticated and substantial the union investment in training is. Like, meet the instructors, see the apprentices, look at these multi-million-dollar facilities that we are running to service the construction industry, which is the second largest GDP producer in the province after real estate. Like, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry asking for $35 million, which is like, the change in the couch cushions of government. Or like, and now I use the example, it's a city block in Vancouver. Like, this is what we're asking for. So trying to make it very simple, very clear, and to show them, seeing is believing. And you have been so great because we keep tapping, Will and the Piping Industry College. We've got another tour coming through. And in fact, we have another tour coming through.
Yes, we do. But it's all of those things. I mean, I'm happy. Our staff, we're all very happy to show the good work that we're doing. I know it's this ongoing saying, we're the best kept secret in the building trades, right? Like, collectively, all of us, we know that, and we're trying to do better. Things like this podcast, the media outreach, the trade shows. But part of that also is inviting these ministers, their staff, whoever it is, to show the good work that we do every day. The students that we have coming through and giving them an opportunity to speak to these people, talking to people that are coming from a previous career and they're trying to get into the trades and the opportunities that are being able to provide, talking to some of the membership, the Journey Person members, about the opportunities that they were able to find within the building trades, being able to connect those dots for the different government officials back to our membership, as well as being able to showcase the fantastic training facilities that we have. And I know for myself, with the way the designations work, we're a private college, which we're obviously different than like a BCIT or a Camosun or something where they're public and they have those public dollars coming through. We're defined as private, which puts us into the same category as a Sprott Shaw or ACE or other for-profit colleges. And for us, that's a big deal because we get seen as a for-profit entity and we're funded in the same way. Meanwhile, we're a registered not-for-profit that relies on funding from the provincial government as well as our own membership to be able to continue doing the good work that we're doing. And for me, and I know in the conversations we've had, that's another one of the things that we need to differentiate with the provincial government, that understanding about what we're doing as privates, as a not-for-profit entity within the big machine of trades training.
Yeah, and that's part of the impetus for creating the College of the BC Building Trades was to put a circle around the unionized training system and then be able to take our place, like they show the gravitas of the building trades. And I do think trying to create a specific classification for ourselves is essential to carving a space that is between the public and the private for profit.
Absolutely. And for those that don't know, can you give a little bit more detail on the College of the Building Trades?
Sure. And I'm going to go back to the beginning again.
Paint the picture.
I paint the picture. So this is not a new idea, but it was it's a solution to the problem. Whenever anyone says sort of like, can you describe the BC Building Trades training system? And I would be like, okay, let's take an hour. There's over a dozen physical entities. There's, many more that can pop up, and just trying to give shape to the diversity of all of our various training schools was very, very hard. And so the idea for the College of the BC Building Trades was to have one vehicle. And the test was, you're a 16-year-old kid, you're sitting at a bus stop, you look at a sign. And that the colleges, you see the College of the BC Building Trades, and that's where I go to get training.
Yes.
And bing, bing, bing. So we created a virtual campus. You can go to www.collegeofthebcbt.ca. And it's got all the union training schools there. It's got a phenomenal trades exploration tool that allows people to go through if they, they may not know that there are careers like steam fitter,
right,
insulator, right? So it's a place where you can go, you can look at the whole variety of trades, explore, then you can get information on what are the requirements, in order to gain entry, and then you can connect to the schools. And so the first step was to build the vehicle. We did that and launched the college in 2021. We've hired a director of workforce development, Lane Clark, and she is running a youth ambassador program and going into the high schools and basically letting every single career counselor in the province and shop teacher know this exists. This is where you should be sending your young people for them to connect with the unionized trades training schools. So
I love that. And I was speaking with Lane last week when we were out there. I think she was heading up North Island, and she had some presenters with her. So that youth ambassador program that's being rolled out. So can you give a bit more detail on what the scope, like what does that look? I know that there was some contact with the locals trying to find people that would be suitable. So what does that actual program look like?
So the shortest explanation would be that we've recruited, third and fourth year apprentices and new journey persons from across our trades, and trained them on a facilitation session that they can go and give in high school career classes that talks about why they personally were motivated to enter the trades, what they find satisfying about it, then talks about all the different kinds of trades. It takes them through a number of exercises and videos, and then gives them information on how to connect with union training schools. What's exciting is that these, youth ambassadors, they are the best possible. Like, they are cool. They're all tatted up, they've got, great stories about, adventures they've had, the kind of life that they're able to lead.
Yeah.
All the various, range of opportunities, in the trades and what lifestyle they've been able to achieve. So they're fantastic. The other piece is that our schools, if you don't know, you don't know. And so this has been a process of really trying to embed awareness about building trade schools into the K-12 system, into the curriculum, trying to make sure that those connections are really strong so that people know to come and connect with us. And I know, I think all of your trades, there might be another training provider that could provide it, but many of our trades, they're the only training provider. Like, you can only be a tile setter if you go to the Tile Trades Training Association, right? And I think the same for glazing. So it really is, getting out there and saying there is, nothing against BCIT. It's a great school, but it isn't the only school. And there's a whole bunch of opportunities and great schools out there.
Absolutely. And I think about myself when I came out of high school and, what are you going to do? All of these different things. And I mean, back then, I mean, we're talking a while ago, talking about the trades as a possible outcome for high school kids coming out, it's never really been a sexy thing to talk about. And I think even still, it isn't really. Most emphasis is on that post-secondary, going to college, university, pursuing that academic pathway. And I think having those youth ambassadors, being able to speak to those students that are still in high school and explain the viable option and the upside in life if you go that route of trades training. It's not a secondary choice, it's a primary choice. And again, going back to my own personal experience, I stumbled into the trades by dumb luck. It was my third or fourth or fifth cousin that was over helping install a gas range, and I'm sitting there in the kitchen watching him do his work. And how'd you get into that? What do you do? I'm a plumber. Oh shit, how does that work? And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, BCIT, or one of the other known publics that we always hear about. I would have had no idea about the UA or Piping Industry College if he wasn't a 170 member. I might have had that interest, but when you jump on the internet and you look, BCIT, and you would have no idea that there's bursaries available, that the tuition's paid for, that the books are available. So not just having the youth ambassador program, but also being able to have the College of the Building Trades to be able to point people to those different directions and paint that picture, right? There's so many different details to understand. And like we're talking about, it's not just the kids that need to know. The high school counselors, the parents, the people that are helping these kids make these big life decisions on what their career is going to be, helping educate them as well.
Absolutely. And you made a comment a few minutes ago about like the opportunities. And when I started in the building trades, my file was apprenticeship too. And you just can't help but like that is the project of my heart. And you lead it every day, obviously, in your job. Like we change people's lives. Yeah. And we don't just offer, education. We offer careers and futures. And you hear these stories, of people who've gone through our system, mothers who had to pick between buying milk or orange juice for their kids. And they don't have to pick anymore because they can buy both, right? And it's just, it's really life-changing. And that is something that is unique to the union training model. Like we train you and we put you to work. Yeah. And we, that relationship is real, and we'll give you a lifetime of work. We'll give you a good pension. And even once you retire, the union is still your home. And I'm sure I have no doubt you've got a retiree wandering the halls right now.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yes. But all of those things you're saying, that opportunity, like it hits me hard. We had a welder apprentice a couple of years ago. He did the welding foundation course, and he scraped together whatever he could to get into it. He ended up joining 170. We sent him to the UA Western Regional competition. He ended up going to the Nationals. Super, super, super good kid, but he didn't have much, right? It was a big stretch for him to get in. I saw him at the 125th anniversary for UA at the Bayshore a month ago or so. He had a new suit on. He had a haircut. I was so fucking proud of this kid. And I gave him a big hug, just seeing the success, and he's wearing that success also. You can see just his whole character, everything of his energy. He's proud of who he is. And we're not taking credit for that at all, but we're giving that opportunity for him to be able to find that in himself. And that's why we do this every day. And that's what I love seeing, being able to have that and following up with them afterwards, being able to have those conversations. And anyway, it's a great opportunity. And I think what we're talking about is you can never share that feeling, that pride that you take in that apprentice or that kid, but for them to understand that the potential is there for them to experience that as well. And having these youth ambassadors being able to share their experience and how the building trades or how their specific local was able to provide that for them as well. I love it.
I don't even know if there's anything more to say, because I'm getting emotional again.
I know, I'm getting all worked up, right? Oh my God, this is a Friday morning.
I
It's
know.
supposed to be nice and easy, and we're getting into all the deep. Yeah.
What we need to do is we need to is make sure that this podcast gets to the politicians on the Treasury Board who are making decisions about the upcoming 2024 provincial budget.
Yes.
And hope that they find that $35 million.
35 million. Looking into the 35 million.
Because we have the will, we have the passion, we have the people, we have the schools.
Yeah.
We just need the funding, and we can blow the doors wide open.
Absolutely. Very well said. Let's leave it at that.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. I'm always a pleasure.
Thank you for coming on, Brynn. It's been fantastic. Always a pleasure to see you, and really appreciate all the conversation we can have around these important topics.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This has been another episode of the Hall Podcast. We'll see you soon. Thanks.